Hi guys, James at RampantLionReviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to stick to Japan and we're going to return to a brewery that's featured on the channel many times before. I've had some really nice beers from these guys over the years, many different styles, and if people were to ask me about this brewery, I would say that they are very solid all round. They're one of the really kind of old school Japanese craft breweries that survived the G-Biru boom back in the early 90s, and they've gone on to do very, very well actually. So definitely worth checking out if you get the chance to try some of their beers. Now, the one that we're going to have a look at today is one of their latest releases from the limited brew selection that they have. It's a style that I have had from this brewery before and one that I know they can do very well, a style that I really quite enjoy as well in fact, but it's also got a little bit of a twist to it that you don't find in many other countries other than Japan. So I think that should make it quite interesting actually. So needless to say, I'm very curious to see what this beer is going to have in store for us. Hopefully it's another good beer, hopefully it makes for an interesting review, and as always I hope that you guys watching enjoy my take on this one as well. So yeah, for this review then, we are going to head a little bit to the northeast of me here in Osaka to Mie Prefecture. We're going to go to the city of Ise, which is home to the Shinto religion in Japan, which is very interesting as well. But that means that we're going to have a look at yet another beer from the wonderful Ise Kadoya. So this particular beer is called Hopped On. It comes in at 8% ABV and they're describing this one as an American IPA. But this beer is brewed as a sort of collaboration with Zoji Rushi, if I've enunciated that right, who produce rice cookers and things like this. They're basically a kitchen instrument company, if you can call them that, but it's been brewed using a little bit of upcycled rice from them that they used during one of their product development cycles, and it's also hopped with Mosaic as well, which we know pretty well. But yeah, an American IPA, and this is yet another beer that I picked up at liquor shop Asahiya in Taishibashi Imaichi here in Osaka, who supply pretty much all of the beers that I review when I'm here in Japan. Since this is an Ise Kadoya beer as well, a big shout out to Jordan of Outsider Inside Japan. If I'm remembering the name of his channel properly, I'll put the link to it in the video description below. Lovely guy and has some really interesting videos about, you know, life in Japan, which are definitely worth checking out, and you'll see him on some out and about videos on the channel over the next few years, I'm sure, so keep your eyes peeled for those and do check out all the stuff that he's been doing as well. So yeah, let's crack on with this one then and see what it has in store for us. The Hopped On, an 8% American IPA with a little bit of rice added into it from Ise Kadoya in Ise, Mie Prefecture here in Japan. So, as always with my reviews, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting though, just fast forward. All the usual links can be found in the video description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done from Ise Kadoya before. This must be about the 10th or so at least that we've reviewed from these guys, and there will be more in the near future. But all the usual social media is down there. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The support that you give is massively appreciated. And remember, you can go into the channel homepage and search for beer using the geography tagging system. So just go in there, use the little search bar, put in your hometown, state, county, whatever you like. If I've reviewed beers from the area that you search for, they will pop up. Failing that, you can check out the playlist of beers from different countries. You'll find this one in the Japanese playlist along with a number of other things, and that is being added to quite regular at the moment. But don't hesitate to check out the other playlists as well. There are some really interesting things on the channel these days. But yeah, let's go on to my brewery notes then, and I'll tell you a wee bit about Ise Kadoya once again. And these guys are really interesting because the company is very, very old actually. So, Ise Kadoya, as I've mentioned to you already, are from Ise City, Ise-shi, in Mie Prefecture in the Kansai region of Japan. It's on the eastern side, almost halfway up the country, I guess you could say. But this city is dubbed the holy city of the Shinto religion, and it's home to over 200 Shinto shrines, notably the Ise Grand Shrine. And the city apparently gets about 5 million visitors per year, but it is actually a relatively small town of only around 130,000 people. But the Ise Kadoya brewery was founded back in 1997, and it's owned by Narihiro Suzuki, who had previously studied microbiology at Tohoku University, and he runs the company along with his wife Chika Suzuki, who does a lot of work in the company's restaurants. But the roots of the Suzuki family business go back to the year 1575, when his family had the Kadoya Cafe with the aim of selling the Kinkaku mochi tea to the Ise pilgrims, and Narihiro is apparently the 21st generation of his family to run the company. But the full company name is Nikenjaya Mochi Kadoya Honten, and this apparently is one of the longest running companies that are still operating in Japan. But in the early days, the company actually struggled with the brewing side of things when the Jibiru boom kind of fell flat, and Narihiro took a gamble and produced the Shinto, these beers that they were calling Shinto beers, as a sort of souvenir beer, and it was this that actually kept the brewing side of the business going. But this kind of got them through the difficult times, and then in about 2010, the Ise Kadoya beers themselves started to perform better than the Shinto souvenir beers. But the brewmaster is Masakazu Nakanishi, and he joined the company in 1997 after working an office job. And he had studied fermentation in high school during his agriculture classes, and the brewery apparently were looking for a brewer when his work contract finished, so it was just a perfect fit. It was kind of destiny for him. But he later became brewmaster in 1999, and another instrumental man in the brewery side of the business is Yoshihiro Matsuoka, who is one of the restaurant managers and the label designer, and he's also known as the walking beer dictionary, just because his knowledge is apparently ridiculous. But the brewery import various hops and malts from all over the world. They use water from the local Miyagawa River, which is filtered through charcoal microfilters at the brewery, and they're apparently very thorough on their quality control as well. And they've won many awards for their beers to date. But the brewery have a number of restaurants, notably Biagura, which is the on-site restaurant, and they've also got the Ise Kadoya Kaikumaiten as well. They've got a core range of beers, various seasonal beers, and they also produce cider, soy sauce, tamari, miso paste, and kinako mochi. And then in 2018, they opened up their new brewery, which has given them the capacity to brew 650,000 litres of beer per year. More recently, they've also created a core range and started canning some of their beers, and these are available in supermarkets across the country. Like at the Aeon Mall that we have just down the road there, you can go into the supermarket there and you will find the Ise Kadoya beers available there. The local Liquor Mountain actually has them available as well. So yeah, Ise Kadoya are producing quite a few beers these days, but also doing a lot of experimental stuff still, which is great. But as of October, sorry, we're into October now. As of October 2023, when I'm filming this review for you, these guys have produced around 460 different kinds of beer, according to Untappd, and that number will no doubt continue to increase as time goes on. But yeah, that is everything I can tell you about Ise Kadoya. If you want to learn more about these guys, you can of course check out the brewery website. You can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on. And you can check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn a little bit more about all the different beers that these guys have done. But 460 is quite a lot to go through, I have to say. But yeah, let's crack on with this one and see what the beer is all about. So those links are in the video description for you below. Let's have a look at the beer itself. So just to let you have a little look at the artwork on this one, you can see it's got the old Japanese rising sun in there. It's got one of these kind of traditional rice bowls as well, which is kind of interesting, and you can see, I think it's just meant to be like a steaming bowl of rice basically. You can see the old Japanese style wave there as well. But there you can see the Ise Kadoya symbol, of course, of just saying Ise Kado. Ya is like a suffix that you have in Japanese when it's a business, so you can say like Sakana Ya, which is like a fish dealer or fish shop, I guess you could say as well. So yeah, Ise Kadoya. But you can see they've got new bottle caps now. I don't think we've had one of these particular bottle caps from Ise Kadoya on the channel before. These are fairly new because they were always green before. But yeah, this is a 375ml bottle. As we said earlier, this beer comes in at 8% ABV. It is an American IPA, this one, brewed with upcycled rice from Zojirushi, a rice cooker company, or kitchen instrument maker, I guess we could say. Kitchen appliance maker, that's the word I was looking for. My English is terrible these days. But yeah, 8% this one. Let's get it out into the glass and we will see what it's all about. So, a little bit of smoke on the opening there, and we'll get this out and see what it's all about. Ooh, that looks pretty nice actually. I can tell you something, as soon as you pour this, it's pretty damn aromatic actually. That's very interesting. So yeah, I think this one, from what I remember having looked at the profile of the beer on the Ise Kadoya website, it did say that it contained a little bit of wheat and oat as well. So yeah, that's probably the reason why we have to call it an American IPA rather than West Coast or New England or whatever. But anyway, when the beer poured, you could see that it came out with about a half finger of a frothy, I would say perfect white head. That's faded away to be quite a thin foamy layer in there. Then you can see it's got a nice ring around the edge of the glass. You can see the bubbles are kind of medium sized, and then you've got a kind of nice frothy layer sitting above that. But you can see this one colour wise, if I shine the light through it, I think you guys are seeing the proper natural colour of this one as well. It's got that lovely, very bright kind of mango juice type colour to it, which I think is great. One or two big bubbles sticking toward the side of the glass there, a few little ones going up toward the bottom of the head. But yeah, overall looks very, very nice, this one. So remember, the colour of your beer depends on a few things. One, the type of malts that you use. This goes a long way to determining your EBC rating. Two, length of your wort boil is also going to play a role, because the longer you boil the wort, the more the sugar is caramelised, and thus you get a darker coloured beer. But any barrel aging that you do or adjuncts you put into the beer will affect its colour as well. And then I think in this case maybe the rice will have a little bit of an effect on it. Probably the haziness in this beer is down to the fact that it's unfiltered. The rice is going to affect that too, but the wheat and oats will be giving you some of that haziness as well. But yeah, it looks pretty much as you would expect from a kind of modern IPA, to be honest with you. So yeah, I don't know if we really need to say very much more about the appearance of this one. Let's have a wee look at the aroma and just see what this beer is all about. Still laughing when I'm filming here, because you can see the little guys IKEA kitchen behind me when I take the glass away. Always makes me smile, that, when I'm filming in Japan. But yeah, aroma wise, as I say, this beer, it's really very, very aromatic actually. I've not smelled an IPA quite like this one in a long time actually. So you can smell it's got this very aromatic, floral, ricey character coming out of it. You have got little bits of fruit in there, you have got a little bit of green component, and you have got a little bit of the maltiness too. So I mean, the way everything goes together in this, I think, is really quite interesting, in fact. This is going to be quite a unique beer, and this is why I always like keeping an eye on what Ise Kadoya are up to, because you'll find random stuff like this. So yeah, let's break this down and see what it's actually all about. So, backbone of the beer, you absolutely get a little bit of a kind of fresh white bready bread crust out of this one. When you sugar the beer up a little bit, you're getting more of the malty character out of the aroma, which is really interesting. So yeah, lovely kind of fresh white bready bread crust in there. A little bit of cracker almost, tiny bit of woodiness in there, but yeah, lovely kind of sweet bready character as well. You can smell there's a wee bit of wholemeal brown bread and also some smooth white bready character as well. But yeah, the way all of that pieces together, I think, is really quite nice. So yeah, white bread, brown bread in there. Then you've also got a good little bit of just kind of sweetness from the malty side of things. I do wonder if there's maybe a little touch of like Pilsner malt or something in here, because you can smell a little bit of that crisp Pilsner malty character as well. You've also got that. You've also got a little bit of like a sweetness in there. You get a little bit of that McVitie's digestive biscuity sort of sweetness, but you absolutely get a lot of that kind of oily, smooth rice character out of this one. I remember back in Sweden that Dugas Brewery for a while went through a phase of using a little bit of like sake rice in their beers, and it's a really interesting thing to do actually, because it just changes the dynamic of the malt base a little bit and makes it feel that wee bit more oily. So yeah, this beer does remind me of some of those. So yeah, you can smell that lovely, oily, sweet, ricey character in there. It actually comes across as a little bit like very slightly burnt or something like that, or slightly caramelised in a sense. So definitely a little bit of that going on. The rice itself is quite floral, quite aromatic. Remember, you've got different types of rice, different grains. It can be grown in different places and all of this. We've talked about this in some of my sake reviews before, but yeah, I mean, aroma-wise, this is absolutely lovely. Yeah, the malty side of things on this one is really quite interesting. I'm curious to see how this is actually going to translate into the flavour side of things. Now, with this one, as I say, when we talk about American IPAs, these are usually somewhere between the New Englands, which have quite a bit of wheat and oat in the malt base and lower bitterness and more juicy fruity characters, and the West Coast IPAs, which have that kind of more oily, caramelly, biscuity sort of malt base and a higher level of bitterness. This one's got a little bit of both of these kind of things going on. The malty character in this one is a little bit more kind of New Englandy. You can smell, I think, some of the white bready character that you're getting out of this probably is from wheat, because you can just smell that it's that little bit smoother, maybe American wheat in this one, come to think of it, but or Australian wheat as well would be an option. But yeah, the with this one, the green component is quite interesting. I think this is using a little bit of late addition. It's probably using quite a bit of late addition and dry hopping. I think there could be a wee bit of early addition hop in this one as well. So remember, 3 types of hoppings. Early addition within the first hour of the wort boil gives you mainly bitterness and a deep dank flavour and aroma. Late addition hopping within the last half hour of the wort boil, that gives you mainly flavour and aroma, but it'll also give you a very bright green component in terms of flavour and aroma. Dry hopping after the wort boil is complete will give you all flavour and aroma, and again a very bright green component. So West Coast IPAs tend to use all 3 types of hoppings. New England's use mainly late addition and dry hopping. And this beer is very bright, but it does have a slight touch of dankness to it. So for me, there's a little tiny bit of earthiness in there, which is characteristic of the Mosaic hop. 14% alpha acid, American. Normally it gives you a big oily tangerine, and you're certainly getting what you'd expect out of it in this beer. So you've got a little bit of earthiness in there, a little bit of herbal character, lovely kind of big bright floral aromaticity, and you've also got yeah, lovely bright floral aromaticity, and you've also got some really nice kind of grassiness coming out of this beer as well. Actually, the way that everything pieces together on this one, I think, is really very, very nice from the green component side of things. On the fruity side of the beer then, the fruity side of things for me is kind of what I would expect, to be honest with you, when I think about the Mosaic hop, but there is quite a bit of aromaticity in there that's either coming from the yeast or it's coming from the particular rice that's been used in this beer. So for me, I get like, it's kind of like there's a kind of gooseberry or like white grape or something like that. So, you know, sultana is another option. There's something like that sitting underneath the rest of the fruit, but the Mosaic is giving you that big tangerine orangey kind of note, which I find really quite interesting. So yeah, big oily tangerine. There's maybe a bit of pineapple sort of note to this one as well, and then you've got there's a wee bit of like dry apricot or something as well. But yeah, the way that this beer goes about its business, I think, is really quite interesting, and it gets a big thumbs up from me. Yeah, in terms of the aroma, I think we said everything we really need to about this one. So the only thing left to do is try the beer. So yeah, this one is the Hop Dawn. If I'm pronouncing that correctly, I'm hoping that my kanji is right. But yeah, this is the Hop Dawn, an 8% American IPA with a little bit of upcycled rice into it from Zojirushi. So let's get stuck into this. Slàinte, skål, cheers, kanpai. pretty damn good, I have to say. It's kind of what I would have expected from it. The first impression of this, it actually has a good little bit more bitterness and bite to it than, yeah, definitely got a little bit more bitterness and bite to it than you might think from the aroma. So its bitterness is a little bit more West Coasty, but the malt base has a wee touch of kind of New Englandy type character to it, I would say. So yeah, interesting stuff actually, because I was kind of getting the impression it was almost the opposite way around when I was smelling it. But yeah, Ise Kadoya, definitely capable of throwing you a little bit of a curveball, and this beer is definitely that. So let's have a proper look at this one and see what it's all about. We'll break the beer down and describe it in depth. We'll start in the middle third of the palate, as we often do. So, for me, the backbone of the beer, you've got that lovely, kind of smooth, white bready bread crust coming out of this one. So yeah, lovely smooth kind of white bready bread crust. And it does get a little bit more grainy into the aftertaste for sure. But as you move further forward on that middle third of your palate, you get a little bit of woodiness in there, and you do get a little bit of crackery character within that bread crusty layer as well, which is really interesting. Now on top of that, you start to get the actual bready side of the beer. So let's have a wee look at that. So for me, the brown bready, the first layer is like a kind of brown bready, like a sweeter wholemeal brown bready character in there, but that's not too tall. The majority of the bready character is more like white bread, and you can feel, I think there is a bit of wheat in this one, so you can feel that kind of more, it feels like a sort of more crisp, like German crystal malt or something like that. You can feel that white bready character in there, and then you've got a wee bit of wheat sitting above that. And it wouldn't, as I say, it wouldn't surprise me with this one if there's a little bit of oat in there, because as you go down the middle line of your tongue, you can feel that slightly more oaty sort of smoothness. It's very slightly creamy as well, that creamy density there going down the middle line of your tongue. And as you move out toward the edges of that middle third of your palate, you do get a wee bit of dryness out of the of what I suspect is the oaty character as well. But then above that, you've got this big circle sitting there, which is, yeah, you've got that big circle sitting there, which is kind of more, it's definitely more of a kind of just ricey character. Yeah, big oily ricey note in this one, but there is a wee bit of sweetness from what I suspect could be a little bit of lager malt or a little bit of pilsner malt or something like that, because when you go further back on that middle third of your palate, there's a wee bit of just that crisp dryness there. But yeah, you've got that oily kind of ricey circle in the middle of your palate there, and you can feel a wee bit of like McVitie's digestive biscuit just kind of you know, pushing out toward the edge of the palate there. But in the dead centre of your tongue, you can feel there's a little bit of a sweet caramelly note to this one as well. Yeah, and that'll be the alcohol, of course. Alcohol is, you know, a big part of the flavour of some of these IPAs. But yeah, you can feel the ricey note in this one lingering there into the aftertaste. And the ricey character, the rice actually has, it's got a little bit of like aromaticity to it, a little bit of sweetness as well, and maybe just a little bit of like an almost floral character too. I'm thinking, you know, with when I was doing some sake videos, hopefully we'll get a couple done this time when I'm here, but when it came to sake videos and reviewing sake, those were some of the characteristics you would look for in your sake, because obviously it's a lot more of a kind of narrow flavour scope than something like you can get from craft beer. But yeah, quite aromatic, a little bit floral, a good little bit of sweetness and a little touch of a fruity gooseberry type thing from the ricey side of the beer as well, but that definitely sits in the middle third of your palate rather than anything else. Let's leave it at that for the middle third. I think that's everything we need to say about this. So remember the general trend with your palate that sweeter flavours will come out further forward, more dry and bitter flavours will come out further back. And for me, the back third of your palate often shows similar characteristics, just at different intensities. But the border region between middle and back third of your palate, you've got a little bit of brown bread in there, the white bread, and a wee bit of, as I say, like a Pilsner malty crispness on top. Then on the back third of your palate, you can feel that bread crusty character is there, but it's obviously a little bit drier and a little bit more kind of grainy things. Then you've got a bit of the crackery character too, a little bit of a brown bready layer there as well, which feels a little bit taller, lighter and more airy than in the middle third of the palate. Then you've got the white bready layer above that, which is I'd say the majority partner in that back third of your palate, so you can feel that in there, you can feel that sitting there, and then above that you've got a little bit of the kind of, what I suspect is a bit of Pilsner malt just creeping over the top there and giving you a wee bit of dryness. It could also be a little touch of like wheaty bitiness as well actually, and then above everything else you've got the yeasty character coming out of the beer. So let's have a wee look at that yeasty side of things. So, for me, the yeasty side of this beer is pretty interesting. I would say the yeasty side of the beer, you've got this slightly more dense, kind of sweet, brown bready, doughy character there. It's wrapped in a little bit of this woody, crackery sort of thing. It's in a little bit of this kind of woody, crackery sort of thing, and then yeah, you just get a little bit of honeycomb around it. I always get honeycomb from on the back third of the palate for some reason with the yeasty characteristics. Must just be me, but definitely the back third of your palate, the flavour is taller, and as you move further forward into the middle third of your palate, it just kind of condenses down and squashes together that little bit more, which I think is really nice. The way everything pieces together in the malty and yeasty side of this beer is really, really nice. So let's have a wee look at the hoppy side of things in this one then, and it's kind of what you'd expect. In the back corners of the palate, you absolutely have a little bit of earthiness, which I find is one of the characteristics of Mosaic hops for sure. But as you move further forward, you get a wee bit more of a kind of herbal character coming out of this one. Then as you push further forward, you get a little bit of you do get a little touch of piney dankness in there, and a lovely little bit of a floral aromatic note. So yeah, lovely kind of spicy floral aromaticity coming out of this beer too. So yeah, the way that goes together, I think, is really nice. And then round the front curve of the tongue, you've got a little bit of a lighter, more grassy character coming out of this one. So a bit of a lighter grassiness in there and a wee bit zesty. And then, yeah, the way everything goes together in this beer, I think, is really very, very nice. So on top of on that front third of your palate then, I'll have a wee look at that and the fruity side of things. So the border region between front third and middle third of your palate, again, you've got a nice little bit of bready build up in there, a wee bit of brown bread in the base, white bread on top, and it's kind of sweeter as well. The base of that front third of your palate, you've still got the bread crust in there, a wee bit of the crackery there, the brown bread, the white bread, the kind of wheaty smoothness. Then you've got that nice kind of oily bubble where the fruity esters just roll the way out of the beer. And yeah, it's kind of doing what you would expect of Mosaic, to be honest with you. It's giving you that big sort of tangerine kind of orangey note, I would say. So yeah, at the back of that front third of your palate, you get a more kind of straight up zesty sort of citrus, but as you move further forward, you maybe get a little touch of like an apricot-y note underneath and a wee touch of pineapple. But then yeah, big zesty orange again as you reach the kind of front tip of your tongue. But yeah, tangerine I think is probably a good way to describe what's going on in this one, but you do have that kind of like gooseberry-like character from the ricey character and the sort of aromaticity of that too. There's maybe a very slight touch of like lime, zesty lime behind the front tip of the tongue too, and that's really interesting. So yeah, I like that about this beer for sure. On the mouthfeel side of things, I think we said everything we need to about the flavour. Let's round off with a look at the mouthfeel. The mouthfeel of this one is very nice. One of the things I'm finding about the Japanese beers, it's a bit more apparent now, having been over in the States for the last month or so before coming here. One of the things I'm finding about these Japanese beers is they just feel extremely clean in terms of the mouthfeel coming from the States, and you forget how good the quality of water Japan actually is. It's a volcanic island, of course. So yeah, and the Japanese have this mentality with beer that it should be very clean, light and drinkable. So that's something, you know, which you notice traits in different countries' beers when you've been doing reviews as long as I have, for sure, and you'll notice that as any level of enthusiast after a while, I'm sure. But yeah, for me, this beer, it's mid-bodied, maybe pushing toward the top end of mid-bodied. Carbonation is quite crisp in this one. As I say, it feels very light, very clean. That's the Japanese water. In terms of the IBU count in this beer, because stylistically this one, the green component, the hoppy side of things, is a bit more West Coasty. The malt base is a bit more New Englandy, I would say, which is why they call it an American IPA rather than one of the two. But yeah, IBU wise, I think this one's got to be about 60ish or 70 IBUs. 60 feels about right, to be honest with you. So it gives you that wee more bitterness into the aftertaste. The malt base, you've got the graininess underneath, the smoothness in the middle, the kind of sweetness and oily characters on top, which are great. There's a wee bit of crispness from what I suspect is Pilsner malt into the aftertaste, and then you've got a lovely kind of oily, fruity character in this one. Very orangey leaning, of course, which is what you expect from the Mosaic hop. But all in all, another very, very solid beer from Ise Kadoya, and I wouldn't expect anything less, to be quite frank with you. So yeah, I think we can leave it at that for this review. So yeah, really enjoyed this one, and yeah, quite happy with it, I have to say. So yeah, once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comments section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Ise Kadoya as well. But this one was the Hop Dawn, an 8% American IPA brewed with some upcycled rice from Zojirushi, a kitchen appliance manufacturer here in Japan, and that gave the beer a very, very interesting sort of rice American type IPA, this one. So yeah, as I always say, it reminds me a little bit of a cold IPA, this, come to think of it. That's probably a good final thought to share in this video, but definitely worth checking out if you get the chance. I think this turned out very nicely, but try some of the Ise Kadoya beers, you will certainly not be disappointed. So yeah, until the next time, slange it, skål, cheers, check out Ise Kadoya, check out my friend Jordan from Outsider Inside Japan, and I'll see you guys on another review very, very soon. Slange it, skål, and cheers.